Let's take a look at the NFL hot seat watch among head coaches. We're into the month of October. First 4 weeks are in the books, and this is kind of when you start to separate teams from, contenders to pretenders to somewhere in the middle. And I think this is the time of the year when you can start looking ahead to and thinking about, okay, this coach could be on the hot seat. That coach who we thought was on the hot seat isn't really anymore. So what we're going to do today here on For Verts, my name is Harrison Graham, is take a look at 7 head coaches and what their hot seat status is. Now, I've got 3 categories. 1, scalding, that'll be like the color red. 2, warm, will be more in the orange category. And then cool will be in the blue category. All 7 of these coaches will fall into this bucket. So that is how we will do it here on our For Verts hot seat watch. And maybe we'll do this like every month or so. Take a look again at the end of October. So if you enjoy this show, let me know in the comments. And you also let me know which head coach has the hottest seat right now. For me, that is Doug Pederson. He is in the scalding category, only winless team. He's in year 3 now. And this just has not gone well for the last year and a half. First year, they make the playoffs. They're ahead of schedule. They win a playoff game. Awesome comeback against the Chargers. And then they start 8-3 last year, and you're thinking, this team's humming. Like, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Pederson, this combination's working. This is like the next team in the AFC that's in that second tier behind the Chiefs, and it just fell apart last year. And that has carried over into this year. Lawrence is really struggling. Pederson doesn't seem to have control. He's already going back and forth with the media, getting testy there. He's been overly loyal to Press Taylor for some reason. It kind of reminds me of Philadelphia, where he won that Super Bowl, I think, in year 2. Was still pretty good the next year, but like slowly really got worse and worse and worse. And I think that last year, what did he go, like 4-12, 4-12-1, whatever the case was. I think this is heading where we think it is. And I think out of all these coaches we're going to talk about today, if I had to pick one to get fired midseason, I'd probably go with Doug Pederson. Be sure to subscribe to 4 Verts if you want more NFL, college football coverage for free. Hit that sub button. We put out a Davante Adams video earlier today. The team I think should go all in and trade for him. Plus, we cover the latest reports and news around that situation with the Raiders star receiver, so you can look at that video, other videos as well, and plus plenty more to come. So if you enjoy college football, NFL, football in general, subscribe for free today. Let's go to New York. Brian Daboll. I'm going to go warm here. I do think there's a chance a midseason firing could happen, but I do think it would be later in this case. And, the New York situation's tricky because usually when a GM and head coach come together, the GM gets 2 cracks at a head coach. But I think Joe Schoen, the GM that came in with Daboll, is actually viewed in a worse light than Daboll is. Daboll got this team to the playoffs 2 years ago with Daniel Jones in a not very good roster. The problem is they then paid Daniel Jones. They got fooled, and that falls more on Joe Schoen, although Daboll probably signed off on it, and it's been a disaster. He wasn't very good last year. Then he got hurt. His comeback this year doesn't look good. They're 1-3. No one thinks they're going to do anything. I think they already need to start looking at the draft for a quarterback. And do you want Joe Schoen drafting that quarterback? If the answer is no, I don't think you're going to keep Brian Daboll with the new GM. So chances are Daboll's going to fall with the ship with Daniel Jones, Joe Schoen. I just don't think how he could survive this if this continues. So his status is definitely warm. It's not scalding, but I think coupling that with the fact that Saquon Barkley's been awesome in Philadelphia, and if you watched Hard Knocks, the owner, John Mara, was very hesitant on letting him go. That's not going to bode well for this regime. How about Mike McDaniel? I'm going to put him in the warm category. And some people in the comments, I can see him now, Harrison, Tua is out. What's he supposed to do? So this guy is called like the boy genius, and I get it. I think Tyler Huntley sucks. I think Skylar Thompson sucks, but you lose Tua and you're just completely dysfunctional. It'd be one thing if, like, okay, when Tua's healthy, they're winning 12, 13 games a year. That's not the case. They lose pretty much every big game they play in under McDaniel. When the weather gets cold, they crumble. he's not a big game coach, and without Tua, they can't function at all. And it's not just the quarterback's not good enough. It's like weird play calls on 3rd and short and weird timeouts and the defense, there's no direction, and it's just it doesn't look that good. So I don't think we're there yet. Like, I think there's variations within the category. Like, I think Brian Daboll is in bigger trouble than Mike McDaniel, but I don't think it's exactly like, well, when Tua comes back, all our problems are solved. I don't really view it that way. I think McDaniel, that shine is starting to wear off pretty quickly. Go to Dallas now, Mike McCarthy. I'll keep it cool for now, cool into the kind of warming up category, if you will. The problem is the regular season just really doesn't matter for Dallas. So he'll either be judged by the playoffs, if they can win a game or two there, or if they miss the playoffs, then yeah, like there's a good chance he's going to get fired. But September just doesn't really mean anything. They're 2-2. They don't look that great. They got some injuries. He could be in trouble, but Jerry's not going to fire him mid-season, I don't think. So it just, this is one to revisit down the road because, if they're 4-7 or something, and it's like, well, they're not going to make the playoffs. Yeah, like at that point, it's going to be probably scalding. But right now, it's 2-2. It's in the cool category. Let's check back in later in the season. If they make the playoffs and he doesn't win a playoff game, I could see him getting fired. If they miss the playoffs, I would expect him to get fired. If they make the playoffs and at least win one playoff game, he'd probably be back, especially since they just paid Dak Prescott. All right, Nick Sirianni, warm. I thought about Scalding, but they're 2-2. It's not like the season's lost or anything, but they almost fired him last year. At least it felt that way. Who knows if that's completely true or not, but when you fire both coordinators and when you lose 6 out of 7 games after starting 10-0 and it's just a complete collapse, and then you fire your coordinators, bring in new guys, and the next year there's still drama. There still seems to be this friction between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni. Remember that ESPN article in training camp of basically Hurts didn't trust Sirianni's football intuition last year. That's a pretty big problem. He doesn't call the plays. He makes bizarre decisions on 4th down. He's not that great of an in-game manager. Sure, he is 36-19. He's won a lot of games. He almost won a Super Bowl. I think that's why he's still here. But what is his impact on game days? I don't really know what it is. Like, if the quarterback doesn't like you, he's under contract. He has a massive contract. I kind of like Trevor and Doug. Yeah, I don't think paying Trevor was that smart, but you did it. You can't really get out of that right now, so you're probably just going to fire Doug. Hurts is a little further down the road. I think he's 1 year past, maybe 2, in terms of the contract situation. So sure, they could decide to just reset there too, but chances are Hurts is at least getting next year to try and get this thing on track, and he's been okay this year, but way too many turnover-worthy plays. I just think Howie Roseman, Sirianni, like, this is an aggressive organization. I could see them hiring Belichick, just being like, you're not good enough, we're going in a new direction. So I think they got to at least make the playoffs and win a playoff game. Like, I think that's the minimum for Roseman to keep Sirianni for another year. Let's go to Chicago. Matt Eberflus. I'll put him in the cool category. I think had they lost to the Rams and fallen to 1-3, I'd probably have it in the warm. But in Chicago with Ryan Poles, I don't think the seat is as hot on Eberflus as people think. Now, it's definitely not nothing. It's cool. It's mild. Kind of like McCarthy. Like, let's check back in later on down the road. Let's see where things sit in November. I don't know if it's playoffs or bust for him, but Caleb Williams, who's making progress, I think that bodes well for Flus. He needs to continue to do that, and they need to win a fair share amount of games. Like, if they go 8-9, 9-8, barely miss the playoffs, and by the end of the season they feel great about Caleb Williams, they'll probably keep him. If they don't, and they go like 7-10, and it was up and down all year, yeah, I could see a reset, and I would advocate for a reset. I thought the Bears should have fired Flus after last year and reset with an offensive coach. But the fact that they didn't do that, do you want to fire a coach 1 year into Caleb Williams' tenure? Well, if it's a disaster, yes. But if there's progress being made and they're at least threatening to make the playoffs, I could see them running it back for another year. So I think it's cool for now, but certainly could dip into that warm category. Speaking of warm, Robert Saleh. I thought about Scalding here too, but they are 2-2. I think they're going to get Devontae Adams. That would be a lift if they did. I think it's pretty simple for the Jets. If you make the playoffs, you're probably all back because they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. So I don't think Woody Johnson's going to fire a coach for making the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. If you miss the playoffs, they're probably fired. And by they, I mean Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, and potentially Aaron Rodgers would just retire / be out as well. So it's been a rocky ride. I'm not a big Saleh believer as a head coach. I think he's a good defensive mind, but I don't love the vibes of the Jets, but he's going to get this full year. And if they make the playoffs, he'll be back. If they don't, he'll be fired. I really do think it's that simple. So we'll see how that situation plays out. But, yeah, that's where it sits right now. All right, there you have it. A little hot seat check-in 1 month into the season. October is here. I think we'll do this like once a month, kind of see where things sit as we get later on into the season, because a month from now will be about halfway through. So a lot of things can change between now and then. My name is Harrison Graham. Subscribe to Verts if you want more football coverage, both NFL and college football, and we will see you guys next time.